everybody. This is Danny Moe for JamPlay.com. We're going to work with a tune. It's a 4-bar progression. Let's listen to it, and I'll talk you through it as we listen, okay? 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Here's an A chord. Here's an F chord. And there's a D chord, which lasts 2 bars. Okay? The A is a sus2 chord. The F is a sus2 chord. And the D is a sus2 chord. And what that means is that the notes that the piano player is using there, who happens to be me too, we stopped on the D chord, so that's in your ear. There's the root. E is the second. That's why they call it sus2. And we'll throw a 5 in there for good measure. There's the 5th. If numbers are new to you, don't worry about it. This is why we're here learning together. Here's a 5th. As long as your bass is in tune, that position is a 5th. And here's a whole step for the second. So 1, 2, 5, and then here's the octave. So on each of those chords, here's the A chord, root, second, 5th, octave. Then we're going to travel down to the F chord, the second chord, root, second, 5th, octave. And then we have the D, root, second, 5th, octave. Now what's cool is, as you get to know your fretboard, you realize you could jump around from this A to this A to this A to this A. Oftentimes this A through a nice big fat amplifier with a lot of wattage. That's sometimes your biggest and fattest sound. It's crazy how that works. And we have this one too. So within the framework of all your different octaves and all the different timbres that you get in different parts of your neck, that's going to create a vibe on your tracks. And again, our whole topic here is creating original bass lines. So as I let the song play through, one of the things you can do to practice is just find the roots and the octaves to the chords. And then we're going to add rhythm to those too. But let's first take the just the roots. There's the A, octave, F, octave, D, octave. Let it hang there. And that's actually an interesting thing you could do with your bass lines. If you sustain a note throughout a chord, all of a sudden the drum part comes into the forefront and your bass gets a little bit transparent. It goes in the background, but it's a nice effect because now when you come back in with your next line, it's going to be strong. So now I'm going to pass through the root, 5th, and the octave. Root, 5th octave. All right. Now I'm going to tap into a little of that bass drum rhythm. Another thing you could think about is the direction of your lines. Are they ascending? Are they going up? Or are they descending, going down? And you could vary that too. Everything you do has a consequence to the song and the vibe of the song. That's why I like practicing these different techniques. And and you experiment. You try stuff out. You record. You listen back. See if you like it. Talk it over with friends who are working on your projects. Do they like it? And you go from there. So that's getting started with notes, roots, fifths, and octaves. Throughout all of our lessons, we're going to discuss many different note choices that have to do with the chords. and I'll try to expose you to that, and then you practice it. Everybody has their favorite go-to riffs, and that's cool. That's how your voice gets identified on a track. So it's fun. It's fun getting acquainted with your own voice, your musical voice, and this is a good way to do it, to experiment recording tracks. Next, we're going to talk about rhythm. Let's talk about rhythm. Here, I'm going to put on the track. Let's pay attention to the drum part. You could listen to the drum part as an entire entity, which is awesome. But if you want to focus in on the kick drum, the bass drum, and the snare, and what they're doing, that's also a good thing. So that if you play with the kick, what it does is it widens your note. It makes your note sound really fat. When you play a note opposite the kick drum, then it's more conversational. And both these techniques work really well for your bass parts. So here we go. Let's just take apart that kick drum pattern. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there's some syncopation in there. There's some downbeats. I'm going to play exactly what the kick drum is doing. Play exactly what the kick drum is doing, makes your bass sound really good. You don't have to do that. You could shorten it. The buzzword there, we call it truncate. You could take some of those syncopations out and play longer notes, and it's equally as effective. So here, I match some of the kick drum lines identical, others I sustain a note or I rest, and it just creates another vibe for the track. It works well. Again, this concept of truncation, it's another thing that in the art world we call less is more, and it's very common. It could be the best thing that you could possibly do is to sustain a note or even play a rest. What I like about rest is when you come in subsequent to the rest, the bass is loud and clear and strong and creates a very powerful entrance on your new 4-bar phrase. And speaking of rhythm, we should define phrases. Lots of music on this lesson here is binary in shape. That means you have subdivisions of 2s and 4s. Listen, you'll hear it even right from the intro, where I have a 2-bar, bar 2, 2, 3, and now here's the A chord. Here's the F chord, and here's the D chord. And now here's my 4th bar. So I'm going to play a 4-bar idea. And now, repeat it. Repetition's a great tool. When I stopped that D, I played a short note, and all of a sudden the hi-hat came into view in the music. And that's a way, if you're playing around with GarageBand or whatever you're using to record tracks, use imagery, vary your parts, and then you could have fun with panning and certain things on the right side, the left side. my God, you listen to an old Beatles recording and the bass is all the way hard left because they were doing it all on 4-track. So now there's so much opportunity for you to play, embellish. But the concept of repetition, I'm going to come back to that a lot throughout our lessons together because I think it's a very effective way of making your bass parts stick as an idea for the song. Next thing I want to talk to you about is passing tones. Those are notes that we're going to use to get from one chord to the next that are going to serve the song really well. Some of you are already playing scales and are thinking about modes. Some of you are playing by numbers. Some of you are playing by patterns. However you're looking at it, the listener doesn't know that. All they're trying to do is enjoy the song. And one of the big things that bass players have to do is connect one chord to the next. If you do know a little bit about scales, it is going to help, and we're going to cover that later on. But right now for this song, where we have an A chord going down to an F, if we just travel down by whole steps, we're going to do just fine. Okay? There's another scale that's real common, and that's the chromatic scale, and that's using half steps. So we could go, okay? And then there are patterns that remind you of what we call a pentatonic scale. A pentatonic, pent means 5, and if we went from the F chord up to the D chord, we could travel like this. So on the F chord, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 6 is our new root. Okay? If that doesn't make sense to you, it's all right. Follow the pattern, and I promise we'll get these numbers and some scale ideas started into your vocabulary in a later lesson. Here's a single passing tone. Now using chromatic. So those are just two ideas to get you started. Whole steps, chromatic. And again, I think of if my line is ascending or descending. Sometimes you could do a chromatic from above the target note. Your target note is the root of your next chord. Let me show you that one. Here's the F. See, I went backwards to get to the D. Cementing the idea onto the song by repeating it a few times. Let's review what we talked about. First, we learned the progression. We have a 4-bar chord progression. A, and all the chords are sus2 chords. We have A for a bar, going down to F for a bar, and going to D for 2 bars. We talked about the use of repetition. We talked about using roots and octaves, varying the registers on the bass. We talked about passing tones, getting from one chord to the next, using whole steps, half steps, chromatic lines, all in half steps. We talked about transparency, where your line just kind of blends into the track. And what that does is, again, it leaves room for the other parts, even a hi-hat from the drum set to come out and appear more in the mix because you're sustaining a note, or even using a rest where you don't play anything at all. And the less is more concept is one to really get acquainted with. It seems like the more you play music, the more you embrace that concept of less is more. So here we go. Have fun with that one.